kick things off here, Brad, with California, because listen, this is going to be the state here outside of Texas and Florida that we spend an incredible amount of time on here on this podcast until we get something going in that state. So what is the latest here from California?
Well, it's kind of officially online sports betting will be on the ballot. California Secretary of State said last night, it had verified a sufficient amount of the 1.6 million signatures that were backing online sports betting. It had verified there were at least 1.1 million real ones. So that will now be on the ballot in November, where it will go up against the retail betting measure backed by the tribes. So it basically means, it's open season now. The war is starting, and it's already kicking off. Actually, one of the tribal backed groups, they sent out a press release literally about 2 hours ago saying they've caught Jason Robbins talking about how they were setting the tax rate in California to benefit themselves rather than the state. And it wasn't about homelessness, as the measure might suggest. It's called, California fighting homelessness or something. It's all about these online sports betting companies sort of taking money out of California and enriching themselves rather than actually helping the state. And I think this is just a flavor of what's to come. It's going to be a lot of money spent, 100 million from at least from each side in the battle for legal California sports betting.
So, Adam, as we take a look at what is the potential over there in California, again, we have no idea how this will all end up and what the final versions of all these look like and whatnot. But what is better for the consumer?
Well, I think we've seen over time that the consumer prefers convenience, right? The U.S. consumer has made it very clear in any state that offers mobile sports betting that they prefer mobile sports betting. We've seen upwards of 90% adoption in most states that have the option for both mobile and for retail. Now, to be clear and to be fair, the tribal option does not completely eliminate retail, but it delays it a minimum of 5 years, essentially to give the tribes a study period to see what they think the effect would be on their brick and mortar businesses. It also does something else, which is delay and potentially fight off entirely the adoption of online casino in California, which is, of course, one of the major fears of the tribes. It's not so much about sports betting being something that is cannibalizing brick and mortar, but it certainly would be a fear that, as we've seen in many states, that the operators who are behind this initiative have done, they will go for iCasino eventually because it is the more profitable of the verticals that they're able to deliver through the mobile devices. So tribes are certainly concerned about that and how that would eat into their brick and mortar businesses. So to answer your question more directly, Matt, I think consumers themselves have said that they want the ability to have mobile, but it's also going to be quite the fight to get there in California.
And Brad, I don't think I'm being too presumptuous here, but you can certainly correct me. And I'm not putting words in anyone's mouth. So this is just strictly, a question for opinion here. But also the 5 years gives the tribes a chance to catch up, right? I mean, certainly they could partner with someone who already has technology and all the different things like that from a mobile standpoint. But, maybe they want to own the whole thing. Maybe they don't want to, partner and they want to keep every single bit of the revenue and don't want to have to split off with different things like that. So it also kind of gives them a chance to catch up to all these other companies, correct?
Yeah, I'm not sure you can catch up in 5 years. I don't think any tribe or any entity can pick up sports betting and try and build something from scratch and compete with FanDuel, say, in 5 years. I don't think I just don't think it's really possible. And I think one of the big contentions that the tribes have is, the operators will come in and they're going, look, you can partner with us, you can still do retail, everyone's going to make a lot of money. But there's 7 operators backing this online initiative. And if you partner with FanDuel, great, you're probably going to make a lot of money. But there's, 100 plus California tribes. And I think that's one of the contentions, is that a lot of people are going to be left out in the cold. And yeah, there is some money dished out to people who don't have partners, but it's going to be peanuts essentially. So, that's one of the reasons the tribes are fighting this, because there's going to be real winners and losers. There's going to be 7 winners, I guess, and 100 plus losers, and that's one of the issues.
And Adam, I mean, look, you and I have been to California, hundreds of times here, and you look around and there are certainly the haves and the have-nots of the tribes as well, right? I mean, like, you can certainly tell the differences in the various, depending on where you go, the different casinos that are already established over there. There are everything from the super nice that you look like maybe if you could just pick it up and drop it in Vegas that it might be able to survive, and to the other ones where it's like, oh, I feel, almost like I need a tetanus shot after I leave this. So, I mean, there's certainly the haves and the have-nots over there as well.
And I think you could say that about tribal gaming in California and just about anywhere where there are tribal facilities that are more advanced than others, right? There are some that have been able to invest and reinvest over time. And, that's something that I think that Brad said that is worth keeping in mind, that there's not uniformity among tribes in California or anywhere else for that matter. There are some tribes who at one point were talking about putting up their own online initiative that ultimately isn't going to go anywhere. We're going to end up with 2 ballot initiatives come fall. And I think it's vital to keep in mind that what Brad said about not being able to pick it up in 5 years and get something started, that is a reminder of what the market opportunity really is in California. And I think we cannot forget what it means to these companies that are publicly listed, to these companies that might potentially be, I'm not going to say running cash poor, but certainly watching dollars a lot more than they were. If ever there were a time to throw the last of your chips on the table and hope that this is the one that you can make happen, this is the one you've got to make happen. And for, whether it's DraftKings, whether it's Fanatics who's trying to get into the market, whoever it is, this opportunity cannot be missed, because to be very honest, Florida was a huge miss for the online betting community. The fact that they failed to get that initiative qualified for the ballot was malpractice on a lot of levels. It seems that they've learned some lessons from that. They got this qualified in California, and now that $100 million that they've initially pledged in terms of advertising and marketing, I would consider that just the very first chip in what's going to be many put on the table by the sportsbooks.
And Brad, finally here before we move on, I mean, who do you feel has the leg up here? I mean, we know how much power that the tribes do have in the state, but we also do have, in DraftKings and FanDuel and Fanatics, whatever, you got massive email lists and massive marketing materials that you're able to get out to your potential customers very, very easily and not cost you a ton of money, even from that aspect, to do that. And further, you are reaching people who are already prone to at least have some sort of interest in sports, right? I mean, yes, there's a gambling list amongst the tribes and things like that, but I mean, just because a guy is a blackjack player or whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be a sports bettor, as to where we certainly know if you're playing DFS, the correlation between switching over to sports betting is very highly likely. So who do you think actually has the leg up in this?
I asked Adam this question earlier. I asked him specifically odds for the online measure passing, and I believe he made the no a slight favourite. I think yes was plus 150. And to be honest, it was more optimistic than I was, because I've spoken to John Holden, who obviously follows this stuff well and writes for us, and he said words to the effect of, if you have 2 measures on the same topic, you have none, because the money sort of cancels it out. They go at each other. There's a lot of negative campaign spending. And that was something I believe the tribes have said. They said, when there's been a campaign this big with 100 million and trying to push for a no vote on something, they said it's never, ever failed. They've never, nothing's ever succeeded in the face of that kind of opposition. So that would be my default here, that they're going to cancel each other out. And it's probably not going to get done because, as you say, the tribes do wield a lot of power, and they'd much rather have nothing at all happen, keep the status quo. I suspect that's the most likely outcome.
They said exactly that at the Tribal Gaming Convention back in April in Anaheim. They said, if nothing passes, we're very happy with that. We are absolutely fine with nothing ultimately getting through. So, expect this to be bloody on both sides.
So they kind of had 2 avenues to air quote winning, as opposed to the other side only having one, because either theirs gets through or nothing gets through, and whatever. Yeah, exactly. Gotcha.